I can probably do most things reasonably well in my business, but I will hone straight in to an expert and go, I need you to come and help me solve this one problem. And I go and get the expert. So don't feel like you can't do that. It's a very common mistake, trying to do everything. You can't do it all well.
So welcome to the Business Behind Your Business podcast, where we like to have the conversations to help your business grow and thrive. I'm your host, Paul Sweeney, helping share tools, tips, and conversations with business owners everywhere to help them grow great, successful, thriving businesses. And we've had a lot of requests from our listeners to actually have more conversations with business owners who have gone through this journey of starting a business and to where they are now running successful businesses, and sharing some of the experiences that they've had, some of the lessons they've learned, and some of the pitfalls that they perhaps encountered or would like to have avoided on their way to creating the business they've got today. So very excited today because we do have one of those successful business owners joining us on the podcast. So today's guest is Jason Owen from D2N Technology. Now, Jason's background is more as an electronics engineer with an in-depth knowledge of how to revolutionize the way industries and businesses communicate, which is quite an interesting journey. And we'll get Jason to share a bit more about that. But Jason has over 30 years experience in broadcast, television, radio, and event production, which all sounds really exciting to me. So I'm going to ask Jason a few questions about that. So a lot of experience there, a lot of insight into how things work and knowledge. So might not surprise you, but a lot of guys I know that are in that media industry get their start DJing and doing a bit of video production or something like that, a bit of a hobby in their background. But he's worked with Seven Network, Ozstereo, Olympic Broadcasting Services, Gravity Media, NEP, Rydal Communications, all big names that you probably know. But now he's the managing director of D2N Technology Solutions, and they're based in the Hawkesbury in New South Wales, and doing some really exciting stuff, providing services, both off-the-shelf and bespoke tech services to audio, video, communications, and basically premium brands, premium solutions, premium customers. I'm excited. Welcome, Jason Owen.
Thanks, Paul. Really glad to be here today, mate. I know we've tried to do this for some time, and it's my schedule that normally prohibits that. So thank you.
Yeah, no, look, I've been excited because we've met, so we know each other from the Sydney Hills Business Chamber, and we spent some time together in one of our network groups, and I've learned quite a lot from you and you sharing about your business and some of the things that you've experienced. And I thought that would be great to share with the Business Behind Your Business listeners, because there's some great tips in there, and some of the things that you've done to be successful are, I believe, are really critical. So we want to get into that. But Jason, working in the media and the TV industry sounds really exciting, and sounds like a dream job for a lot of people. Why move from that to running your own business?
It's a great question. I guess I'll preface it and say that I have been very fortunate with the opportunities that I've had in life and being able to work for the organisations that I have and the people that I've met throughout that process. The amount of travel that I've been able to do has opened, my eyes to the rest of the planet, I guess, and really helped shape my my worldview, my mindset, and certainly provides me with a lot of drive. But yes, moving from full-time employment in a very dynamic and a very busy environment to working with inside your own business. I mean, honestly, day one, it didn't really slow down. All I noticed is I was going to the airport less. But what I was able to do is transition almost gradually in some way. I mean, eventually I made a decision to leave my full-time job and move into, and I was in an executive position inside a business. I was running my own division inside a business. It was extremely busy. I was traveling more than 250 days a year, put it that way. So a lot of time away from home, which is a separate thing I'll come back to about the support that you need at home. But moving to your own business, and it is the story where I started this business in earnest in the lounge room of my mother-in-law's house while we were saving to buy our own house. So you can do it. It's the people you surround yourself with, and it's the drive that you have and the passion that you have that'll get you there. That'll get you most of the way there. Most other things you can learn or get people to help you with, but they're the couple of things that you've got to have, is surrounding yourself with people that will help you, question you, and also having that never die attitude. You got to get up every morning and love what you do. And I love what I do. I love the customers we work with. The brands that we work with are the best in the world. And so that makes the day a pretty good start, I guess, from a starting point.
Yep. So I'm looking at where your business is at now, like really successful, working with some of the best brands and doing some of the best, I guess, some of the best customers and best events. And look, we've probably seen your work and product without realizing it, because I know there's been a lot of things you've been involved with, and it's the stuff behind the scenes that happens that makes everybody else's job work seamlessly. But you mentioned starting your business in the lounge room of your mother-in-law's house.
Mm.
Okay. That sounds very familiar to a lot of people who have just started their journey on the business, or maybe they're on their journey, but they're still working from their lounge room, and perhaps a lot more of us recently. But you've gone from such a high-profile job to working out of a lounge room. Yeah. What was the driver for leaving that full-time job?
So a couple of personal reasons. One was that I was never home and my kids were growing up too fast. And I went, you know what, I get one chance at raising my children. So I thought this is something I cannot miss any more of. And I knew that the older I get, my body will eventually tell me to slow down. It hasn't got there yet, but I can feel it to start arriving. But yeah, so there were personal reasons. Plus, because I was reasonably successful at what I did in full-time employment, I went, I can do this and I can make a lifestyle for my own family. I can build a lifestyle that's one that's going to be suitable for my partner and I, and provide our children with opportunities for their lives. And that's really what drives me. We talk about knowing your why. Well, my why is to provide opportunities for my children and to allow my partner and I to retire in some reasonable comfort, in the next 10 or so years. I'll probably laugh at that number. It's probably going to be longer, but I love working with technology and I love helping people solve their problems. So it was a huge change. The pace that I ran at in full-time employment was crazy. And whilst it's crazy here, I am in full control of what I do and what our business takes on. So I guess I feel like I am a bit more in control of not just my destiny, but also my family's well-being and destiny.
So those reasons that you've given us for why you started your business, they're fairly common reasons I hear from people when they start their business. So wanting to spend time with family, wanting control over what they do, control over their lifestyle, shaping their own destiny. All good reasons, and I hear that a lot. What I don't always see, though, is that the reality matching up to those intentions. Now, knowing you personally and from talking with you, I know that you actually have created a business that provides those things. You have that control. You've got that time with family. You're in control. You're shaping where you want to go. A lot of people aren't. So what did you do differently to get to the point you're at now?
So I actually ran a production company in the 90s. So this is my second chance at running a business. And I grew that to about 12 or 13 staff. It was about a $5 million company in terms of turnover. And I learned a lot of lessons out of that. When I got out of that business, I went and got married and took on a full-time job and, big change in life. So when I came back to start thinking about it again, I went, what am I going to do differently? And how am I going to make this really last a long time so that I don't have to go back to full-time employment again? So I thought long and hard about what sort of customers do I want to work with? What is the work that I'm really good at and is not highly competitive that I can charge a decent amount of money for? And I guess I am fortunate with my background in TV and broadcast engineering and RF engineering is that there are some real pockets where there's not a lot of competition in this country, particularly if you're good at what you do. And I'm not beating my own chest, but I've worked hard. I've worked really hard. I've put myself through uni. I've done 2 degrees that I did at night. I've worked really hard in my younger years to build up my education profile and then back that with building relationships wherever I go. And that really underpins my ability to think on the ground, but think long-term is those relationships, because you never know where people are going to end up. You don't know who they know, and expect everybody to be an impact in your life at some point. So that's kind of the mindset that I work off on day to day, not just my business life, but my personal life. So yeah, the key changes we're thinking about. Okay, I'm going to start a business. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to put some definition around it. So I literally created a 5-year business plan. In the last couple of months of my full-time employment, I created my business plan. I kind of nailed it down. I shared it with my 2 mentors that I had at the time, who one was an industry mentor, one was actually an old high school teacher. So I shared it with them, and we kind of bounced it around a little bit. And I got to a point where I went, okay, I'm ready. And I'm now reasonably confident I can have a good crack at this. I wouldn't say a slow start, but it wasn't a straight out of the gate start. We had to work hard. We had to really put some definition around our marketing and our ideal customer. I mean, that's the thing that I had to work on straight away, because once you tell people you're running your own business, they go, what do you do? So you got to have an answer. And so what I would say to people is that if you are thinking of starting your own business, or you've just started, and you're trying to catch every piece of work that you can, try and put some definition around that, and try and work out what you're really good at and you make good money at, and where you've got the least amount of competition, so your best margin. From that, you can build a framework for a business, and you can grow on it later, but that's the way you want to start your base. The next thing that I probably took the step to take is to surround myself with people that were going to support me and hire smartly. Every person that works here is, in my mind, a gun. You know, they're really good at what they do, and we pay them accordingly, and we try and provide them with a work-life environment where they can have their own lives, but they get to work hard for us, and they make decent money, and we do some really cool projects. So I'm trying to be a bit of an employer of choice, but also provide a really good environment for the people that come and work for us, because it is hard work. It can be long hours. It can be travel, but you will get to do things that not many people get to do. So that's part of that excitement of working in, broadcast. And broadcast now is only about 30% of our business. So we've diversified our business with the same types of equipment, but gone into other markets over time. That's what, the few more years under our belt, it's allowed us to kind of diversify our customer base without stretching our equipment base, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, so a couple of key things there, which I might expand on. But the first thing which I got really excited about when you mentioned it was you had a plan, a 5-year plan before you started your business. You had that plan, but you also knew what you wanted to do and who your customers, what type of customers you wanted. And we'll look, I'll also come back and touch on that support base and the relationships that you're building, but those key things. So if you didn't have that plan, what do you think would have been the outcome for your business?
What's the catchphrase? Was it no plan or plan to fail? Without a plan, plan to fail. I think it's something like that anyway. And I don't think necessarily I would have failed, but I know that I would have struggled to find my core, where I was aiming at. And I learnt that from my days in running my own production business. I learnt that, okay, we're going to start a production company, and we're going to do audio, video, and lights, and we'll hire it to anybody. And, kind of at the end of that business, I started to find our niche, and we started, we started to hone in. If I had done that at the start, it would have been a way smoother transition into growth and bigger, better customers. So that was probably the lesson learnt there. The other experience I've drawn on is that twice now I've taken on divisions in businesses and grown them. One was a brand new division. I had to write a business plan, present it to the owners. And this is a multinational company that I had to do this to. I had to present it to the owners, asked for a pile of money, and said I'd turn it into more. And I did it. And I did it really well. So it gave me a lot of insight into running my own little division inside a big business. And I got a lot out of that. I mean, I kind of am really grateful for that experience, for that employer that I worked for. So, yeah, that experience enabled me to ask a lot of questions and be around a lot of smart people, look, learn, listen, and just draw on those experiences and build those relationships. I mean, I will just keep coming back to it. Every chance you get to build meaningful relationships in life, do it. It is never going to let you down.
Yeah, look, that's coming through very, very strongly. And I think it is a key. And I'm just a little bit concerned for a lot of the youth of today who probably are struggling with that interaction and struggling to have those relationships, because you do need them in so many ways in your business. You've talked about the role of having mentors, which is great. And mentors, I think, not necessarily in your own business area.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you're right. So my 2 mentors, I mean, one, And sadly enough, I mean, this is kind of the sad part of the story, is that both of them have passed away now. So I'm without a mentor now, but I'm now probably starting to give back. You know, I'm mentoring two of my friends that have businesses that are not in my industry at all. I mean, they're not even connected to my business. So I'm really enjoying that bit of helping them kind of grow. That, you know, they're kind of one-man bands, you know, single business, tradie-based business, and they're trying to get to that point where they can hire the next person or, you know, buy that next vehicle. And I'm trying to help them through. But yeah, that value of the mentor was just so helpful and so insightful. And you need one that'll be honest with you, because you don't just want someone that's going to pat you on the back and give you good news stories every day. That's not a mentor. That's probably someone that's just doesn't want to be critical. So that's a key part. So I enjoy the mentoring part now. I mean, it's kind of like being a manager of friends. You know, you get to help them succeed, and that's how I look at it. And giving back, and I guess that's part of something else that is part of me. I try and live a life of grace, I guess is what I would say. That's how I try and live it, is that whilst I really enjoy celebrating our successes, I try and retain a little bit of humility. I don't try and make it, you know, so loud that it's ridiculous and not at the cost of other people, I guess. I also try and make the environment here so that it is quite open and it's honest and it's transparent. And, you know, it's just, yeah, to live that life of grace gives you a really great feeling in your heart and your mind when you're dealing with other businesses and other people, that you know you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. So yeah, let's go. I just want to go on to the relationship side. So what kind of ways do you expand? Because you would have known a lot of people from your industry, but you've diversified into other areas as well. So how have you built those relationships, and where have they come from? Other people you know, or?
So I'll talk about the time in television and radio a little bit, because it might explain how it kind of started. So when you work in these industries, you do a lot of travel if you're working in an outside broadcast environment. So you're generally covering sports or reality television. Could be the Olympics, could be NRL, could be Survivor. Any show like that, you get to travel, and you evidently end up working with people from all over the world, and you work all over the world. So your ability to immerse yourself in the culture of the country you're living in and adapt to the people that is their home, and adapt to their cultural norms and how life works in those countries is a really great life skill, because it teaches you how to build relationships. It forces you to build relationships. You can't travel to another country and hide for 3 months while you're working on a show. So that's probably one of the best things that I've gotten out of my time working in the media, is it forces you to learn that skill. And I guess I was always a bit of an outgoing kind of person, but it really enabled me to hone it and feel comfortable about it. I guess, you know, we'll get butterflies. I mean, I still get butterflies when I present stuff and do stuff, but I guess I feel comfortable in walking up to a stranger, putting my hand out and say, "Hi, my name's Jason. What's your name?" And, you know, it's kind of second nature to me now. So how I transferred that into other industries is I used examples, and I used my own, I guess, choice of language and body language to engage with those people. And that's part of that is listening with intent. I mean, so many people, you'll talk to them and you can see they're gone. I mean, they're just miles away, you know, and I often throw in comments. I'll often, in the middle of a sentence, I'll go in the belly button, you know, I've got a quail in my belly button, and just keep talking and see if they say anything. And it's interesting to see people go, "Hang on, what'd you say?" I go, "You are listening. Good, right."
Yeah.
So, so, you know, that's a key one, is listening with intent, and not allowing yourself to let your preconceived ideas ignore the information you're hearing. And that's a key important part there. When you're trying to build a relationship with someone, by listening to them with intent and listening to them without judgment, not only will you help expand your own mindset, but you'll understand exactly where they're coming from. And that's a massively key part. It leads on to the next part of, people want to transact with people they trust, right? And that's a super important part. So if you're listening with intent and you're understanding their point of view and their opinion, you're starting to build trust. If you're treating them with respect and you're talking to them and you're engaging with them, I mean, these are all people relationship building skills, and it's taken me a lifetime to build them, I guess. It's not come overnight, but I know that they work, and they work almost flawlessly. Really, it's and it's actually not that hard to do. You've just got to start, and you can sit there in front of the mirror and practice this stuff. I mean, and it's uncomfortable and it sounds a bit catchphrasy, but it works. And you'll get better at it. I mean, like anything, you practice and you get better at things, and don't get complacent. So yeah, I guess that's kind of, I see that as a bit of an advantage for our business, that I'm not afraid to get out and talk and meet people. I'm not, I won't live on my phone and won't live on email. I'll go and knock on the door and try and have and look people in the eye. I mean, that's just, so, hey, going back to your point about the younger generation, that they seem to be a bit disconnected from the front-on conversation, a bit more driven by the online version. And I've got 3 teenage kids, so I see it. I think there's 2 challenges. One is that we've got to help them get away from that and get back to person-to-person conversation. But we've also got to understand, as their parents' generation, that is the way they interact. And we've got to adapt our style to suit them too, because ultimately they are going to be our customers at some point. So there's a 2-way challenge going on there. And this will continue to happen as generations evolve or not evolve, depending how you see it. So, yeah, it's an interesting conundrum. And, not just to parent kids that are in their teenage years or early 20s, but to then work with them and hire them, manage them, or try and provide products and services to them.
Yeah, and look, you've touched on something there with that cross-generational way of doing business. We tend to, or historically, we would do business with the people that we were comfortable with dealing with, and they were often our own age group or our own social group. But in business, it's not like that. You've got to deal with other people. So I've got employees who are the same age as my kids.
Yeah.
So there's some challenges in how I communicate to them, because sometimes I will fall back on examples or illustrations of how to do something from my experience, and it's a concept that they've never come across. But the other side of that as well is that I have customers or I have clients that are that age group as well, so I need to communicate to them. Or I have the children of my current clients who are looking to take over the business in that age group. So I need to talk to them. And it is a challenge. And I'm not necessarily a very outspoken person. Originally, you'd say I'm introverted. And I used to really struggle with this whole idea of talking to strangers. So I made a point of when I was buying things at the supermarket was actually engaging with the conversation when the person at the checkout said, "Hi, how are you?" But actually try and have a conversation with that person.
Yep.
Because there's no fear. They're probably not going to see me again.
Yep, that's right.
But having to go outside of your comfort zone, really, and learn to engage, learn to listen to people, actually identify what they are. Because a lot of time we sell in our business without actually listening to what the person needs or 100%. What their problem is.
Yeah. Listening with intent, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
And even when you come across people that you might find them, I don't know, a bit abrasive, or they perceive to be a bit abrasive, or you can't click with them, you can't work out their personality. If you start with a smile and you start by looking them in the eye and talking to them nicely, you're just going to lower the temperature in the conversation a little bit. I think that's one of the tricks, is to take a bit of heat out of because we all have challenging conversations in life, whether it be at home or work. But if you can take a bit of heat out of the conversation and bring the temperature down a little bit, all of a sudden it becomes a little bit more objective what you're talking about, and not so driven with passion. So it's just another skill that to develop over time is how to identify those key points of challenge in the customer's mind or whoever it is mind you're talking to. How do we just remove some of those? How do we take those bits of wood out of the fire? Let's just drop it down a bit so we can actually expand on what are we trying to do here.
So we talked a lot about your relationships have been key to your success, but I just want to go back to that point where you made your business plan before you started the business. So a lot of people make a business plan, but it just sits there. They don't do anything with it. I know that that's not the case with you. How regularly do you revisit that plan or adjust it?
So when we built the 5-year business plan, and it was a document. I mean, a business plan is a document. And I pulled out a couple of pages and I laminated them, put them on the wall, right? So I put down, who are our customers? What are we trying to achieve? And what's our financial goal in year 1, right? So they're the immediate things we point at. By the time we got to year 2 and year 3, I started to break that down into 90-day plans. So whilst I've got my 1, 3, 5 year goals, I was able to chunk that down into smaller, achievable things. And it's another key thing to do. It's, you can have all these dreams up on the wall. I want to buy a house in the Italian Riviera, whatever it might be. That's great. Well, what are the 10 steps it's going to take to get there? And so that's one thing and we still do that now. I mean, I literally do that every 90 days. I look at where we're tracking. I look at how we're going. I am big on data, so I do use dashboards a lot in my business. We've got a CRM, and I do like looking at the data, our leads, our conversion ratio, our gross margin. These are all these key data points. And if you don't know that in your own business, please go and find it out. So number of leads, your conversion ratio, your gross margin. You need to know those three things because they're the biggest drivers to your business and how successful you're going to be. But yeah, so I break it down to 90-day blocks and we run off that. And I always refer back to it and go, how are we tracking? Okay, so we need to do a bit more there, or why has that happened? Is there some external things that are doing it? Or are we short on product? Product availability has been a huge thing for the last 2 or 3 years and still is in some cases. So you can start to build mitigation around that, or you can accept that that's a change in an environment. I can't have any say over it. Let's move around it. Don't stop. Let's innovate around it.
Mm. And do you find that revisiting your plan and adjusting where you're heading every 90 days actually helps you stay in control of which customers you're working with, what products you're selling?
So let me talk about the time commitment. So on an annual basis, I reckon it probably takes me 3 to 4 days to go and revise that annual plan. At 90 days, it takes me a couple of hours, right? So it's not a massive commitment. It's a couple of hours every 90 days where you sit down, and if you're doing all the right things in those 90 days, it's a very easy process to check where you're at. And there's a whole host of templates and stuff out there in the world that you can use, or you can make your own one if you've got a specific business requirement. But it also adds a bit of accountability that you get drawn back to this and you look and you go, hang on a minute, we're actually way behind here. Why? Well, because you've been distracted doing other things and not focusing on the core parts of your business. So I think it's time very well spent. It's not a long commitment, and it kind of comes back to our previous point about a mentor. That's the time you want to drag that person into the room and go, have you got a couple of hours for me today? I just want to run through this with you. Just even if they just sit there and watch, and they can make notes and speak up when they think they got something to say. I just think that's invaluable.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm pleased to hear you say that, because it's something that I try and encourage my clients to do a lot more regularly, is actually have a plan, but revisit that plan and refine it regularly. And that accountability piece is critical there, I believe. So really glad to hear that. Really good to see your work, how it's working. Now, you've grown from basically yourself to what does your business look like at the moment, just in very broad terms? How many employees, what kind of industries are you working with?
So we're 7 full-time employees. We've got about 7 industries we work across. So it'd be broadcast, entertainment, government sectors, including defence, councils and other government agencies. Sporting federations is a big one for us, particularly in motorsport. We're clearly number 1 in Australia for motorsport communications by some margin, which is great for our business because it's a very easy, marketable customer base for us to show off our business to, I guess. We work across theatres, we work across the education sector, we work in construction. So whilst that sounds really diverse, and it is, there's a core set of technology that most of them use. And if you look at our website and you look at our brands page, you'll see that there's a couple of common, sectors there. So, for instance, take two-way radios. Two-way radios are used across so many industries and sectors in Australia, and people probably don't think about it. But, you go into the Big W, every person in Big W is wearing a two-way radio. You go to National Parks and Wildlife, they're all wearing radios. Obviously, all the emergency service or the governor, they're all wearing two-way radios. Motorsport, AFL, the guys on the sideline, they're all wearing radios or comms of some sort. Every theatre show you go to, they're wearing comms. So, whilst we might be diverse in the industries we work in, we've kind of tried to keep a tight equipment base, and therefore we've raised the bar. So we only deal with the premium brands. So we get high reliability. So we have low maintenance and low returns. which means customer satisfaction stays high. So there's a couple of things to think about there for other businesses if they're thinking about going to a cheaper supplier to save $1 on a cheaper product. What's that cost to your business? We really enjoy low repair rates. Literally, it's so low, other than people breaking stuff, of course, but failures are really low in our business. So it's a manageable cost for us. But yeah, across those different sectors, and we're able to innovate as well. We are number one in a few of those sectors, and we're able to innovate some of our own products and put them into the market. We've got good enough relationships with a few customers who can be an R&D platform for us. So we'll provide kit to them free and say, guys, can you please go and test this, go and break it and bring it back? And we end up with a world-class product. So, that's just a win-win for everybody. The customer gets a product that is fit for purpose for them. I get a product that's, a world beater kind of deal. And we could get to grow our business. So it just comes back to those relationships that you've got that person, you can ring up and say, look, I'm trying to invent the new water bottle. Can you help me test it? I'm going to give you 10 of them. Go and use them.
Well, yeah, that's. I'm glad to hear that. So, I just wanted to put it in perspective because we're talking about you having a successful business, and I think sometimes people look to the large companies, the Canvas, the Atlassians, the Apples, etc., as they are success. But there is some highly successful businesses which are what you're running, and just that size aspect. Like I say, when we're talking about a manageable number of employees, yes, you're working across different industries, but you've got core products which translate across those industries. So when you've added those industries on, you're not really learning something different. You're still applying that same skill, that same product, which means growing has been, I guess, probably a less risky step than if you're adding a new product that you don't know to a new industry. That could be quite risky.
It gives you balance too, right? So when some industries are quiet, other ones are busy. And we saw that in COVID. So we grew our business in COVID quite substantially. And to put some numbers around it, our conversion rate is never under 75%. So we convert 75% of all leads that come into the door to a sale. Our return customer rate is about 48%. So call it 1 in 2 is a repeat customer. And our gross margin, we work off about 38% gross margin, right? So for a business that sells equipment, products and services, that's reasonably healthy. So and they're the numbers, they're the targets that I look at. So based on my conversion ratio and my average sale value, I know how many leads I've got to get in the door. So I work backwards. I re-engineer it to get this much revenue at this much gross margin at this conversion rate. I know I need this many leads in the door. So that then gives my marketing person a target in terms of the number of leads to come in the door through all of our marketing avenues. And we're a small business, but I guess you're probably hearing me talk like it's a much bigger business than what it is. And that's part of the mindset as well. It truly is. Like it truly is part of the mindset that if you want to be a medium-sized business, act like one from day one, be one, and start that perception and build towards it. You can absolutely do it, and that's part of building the right people around you. So, yes, by adding other industries on, sure, there's some learnings to do. We do stuff in mining, right? So you've got to go and learn how, for instance, a two-way radio network performs in a mine site environment versus a reality TV environment. They're very similar, but they've both got their own little separate things that make them an individual customer. But it's not that hard. Most of it is learning the kit. So once you kind of know what the kit's capable of doing, you can adapt it to so many different scenarios.
Sounds great. Good. So, Jason, just thank you for sharing all of that. That's a wealth of experience and knowledge and some great insights there. If there was one thing, and I'm thinking I know what the answer is going to be here, so there's one thing that you would tell a person starting a business or struggling with their business that they need to get right, what is that one thing?
The one thing is learn how to build relationships. And you know what? If that first relationship is to go and get yourself a mentor, then make that the first relationship. You need someone in your corner, but it's also going to question you. And, it can be a mate. It doesn't have to be a professional mentor if you don't want to go that far straight away. But start with someone that will be honest with you and listen to what you're saying. You don't need you don't need that straight away. You can build on that and get to that. But go and get someone that you can talk to and have a confident, private conversation with, and share the good and the bad, and know that it's not going to go anywhere. And then when you get to the point, you can go and engage, a professional mentor or professional business or services to expand on it. And what I guess I would say is that use your mentor to identify where you need help. And once you know where you need help, go and seek it and go to a professional and go and get that help where that's what they do. That's what their core business is. They're experts at it, and go and engage that person. That's exactly how we do it. I can probably do most things reasonably well in my business, but I will hone straight in to an expert and go, I need you to come and help me solve this one problem. And I go and get the expert. So don't feel like you can't do that. It's a very common mistake, trying to do everything. You can't do it all well. And just taking that on and not feeling ashamed about it is probably an important thing, I guess. But yeah, relationships, get your mentor. And so think of it this way. Here's a really easy relationship goal. And I do this every time I go to a chamber event. So I walk in and I go, I'm not going to leave until I make one person feel better than they did before they met me. And that could just be getting them to smile or have a laugh or share a bit of information or have them share a bit of information about their life. And if I get a smile out of them, I go, tick. That person now feels better than what they did when I walked up to them. So that's kind of the mindset that you want to develop. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Jason. It's been wonderful to have you on the podcast, and we're really hoping that, our listeners will get a lot of value out of it. I'm confident they will. And look, if you are listening and you know a business owner that is struggling with some of these things and can really benefit from the advice that Jason's given today, then please share the podcast with them, share this episode with them particularly. And while you're at it, point them in the direction of our website, thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com, where you'll find all our past episodes and show notes. And we'll be putting up some show notes, including some of Jason's contacts, where you can find out a bit more about D2N technology and what he does. But probably if you want to know where to go, it's the Linktree. And this is something I need to get on board with a lot more, is the Linktree link, where you can summarize a lot of your key questions and resources. So it's https linktr.ee/D2N technology. And we'll put that in the show notes because you might not be able to write that down at the moment. But Jason, thank you again for speaking with us today. It's been absolutely fabulous. I've got a number of action points ready to implement from our conversation, and I know our listeners will as well. So thank you again for your time, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul. Absolutely my pleasure, mate. Absolutely my pleasure.